Nathan Cleverley, you were hoping to announce an opponent today, but it must be quite frustrating because the deal hasn't yet been done.
No, a familiar situation actually, but our side of the deal is done. We've signed the contract with HBO. We're ready to fight. So waiting on the opposition now.
Says a lot about you as a fighter that you're willing to take on someone like Kovalev, even though the fight hasn't been fully agreed on both sides. That's a dangerous fight. That's a fighter that not a lot of people would want to fight. He's dropped Campillo 3 times in one round. He's a big puncher. Maybe there's not a huge amount to gain by beating him. Says a lot about you, doesn't it?
Yeah, this guy is very good. Massive puncher. Probably one of the best in the light heavyweight division at the moment. But I want to take this guy, make a statement. He's making his name in the US, pound for pound, top 4 puncher in the world. And that's what I'm about. That's the guys I want to be involved in. It's just trying to nail down one of these big fights. But we're trying. But if these guys don't want to fight, then I'm the world champion, and I'll move on with my own career.
Do you think sometimes you don't get enough credit for some of the opponents you've fought, like someone like a Murat that you beat very convincingly? He's going to fight someone like Hopkins, and you don't always get the credit for those tough fights that you've had.
Yeah, exactly that. Murat, who I beat when I was 22, unbeaten fighter, and all of a sudden 4 years later he's mandatory challenger for Bernard Hopkins. So I took Murat's undefeated record, and people seem to forget that. And obviously he's mandatory for Hopkins, so it just swings around. It's crazy, but it's definitely you don't get the credit for those type of fights. But when the big fights do happen in the next few fights, we'll eradicate all that.
You trained alongside Joe Calzaghe for a number of years, a fellow WBO champion, although down at super middleweight, and you've obviously seen him have big fights fall through, and the frustration that he went through, sometimes not getting the big fights he wanted. Even after Lacey, he had to wait a few years to get those career-defining fights against Kessler. Did you learn a lot about him and how he managed to keep going in those times where he may have felt like, oh, it's not worth it anymore?
No way. It can be frustrating not getting the big fights, and at the end of the day you get more respect from being involved in the big fights, and you get a hell of a lot more money. So I'd love to be involved in these big fights, but I've got to take on these challenges, these guys who've got nothing to lose. That's where they step in to fight. They don't do it for the money, they do it because they want that world title from me. And you've got to keep building yourself up for these hungry challenges. So it can be difficult remaining world champion. Sometimes it's easier to get up for these big fights because, as I said, you get a lot more credit and a lot more money. But we are where we are, and as a champion, you remain champion. I remain unbeaten. I'm a winner, and I'll keep going.
When Joe Calzaghe was at the very top of his career, he had a young British fighter calling him out. I think he was only British and Commonwealth champion at the time, called Carl Froch, and he was goading him into a fight. And Calzaghe sort of just didn't need the fight at that time. Now Froch is at the top of the super middleweight world, and he's got all the belts, and he's got young fighters calling him out. He doesn't seem to want to pay them any attention, but you're a world champion in your own right. Do you think he deserves to give you a bit more respect than he has been giving you?
Well, that's exactly the point. When Joe was world champion, Froch was beating the drum to get a fight with Joe Calzaghe, and Froch was only Commonwealth British champion then, but I'm a world champion, an undefeated world champion at light heavyweight, giving Carl Froch the opportunity potentially to become a 2-weight world champion, or if not, I'm prepared to drop down to his weight. His biggest payday, and he's disrespected me. He's brushed me off as not being a worthy opponent. So it's not only hypocritical, but it's outrageous that he's actually disrespecting another world champion. And the reason why, the true reason why, is because I'd box this guy's head off. He's slow, he's robotic. I would take this guy apart.
In the lead up to Froch's fight with Kessler, you were over in Denmark and you sparred a few rounds with Mikkel. Although you weren't in full training for a fight, so maybe not a lot can be taken from that. But what did you think about Mikkel as a fighter, and what did you learn training alongside him?
Mikkel, he's a great guy, and a real warrior of a fighter. Tough and technically good. And he asked me to go out and help him spar for the Froch fight. So I went out and enjoyed myself. You know, just got a few rounds in with quite a lot of rounds in with Mikel. Made him work hard. And it was good quality stuff. You know, two world champions, real top class sparring.
He's fought at light heavyweight in between some of his super middleweight fights. If he doesn't want another return with Froch, is that a potential fight for you? Maybe up at light heavyweight, be a barnstormer, surely.
Yeah, but you never know. That could be a great fight, but I think Mikel is after his trainer was saying that he makes super middleweight quite comfortably. So but you never know. You've got a lot of super middleweights who potentially come up. Mikel could come up. Andre Ward is highly likely to come up to light heavyweight division, and the more big names in that division, the better. It's going to be some good times ahead for if these big names are involved.